I really do. I don't mind putting them up and down my shirt, but this does make my life easier. Yeah, rather than like 50 cords around my collar. I mean, I don't care what I look like. That's not why I came into this job, but
I hope not.
I mean, I haven't washed my hair in a week, so and I've been sleeping in the bed of a truck.
Work for the government, they say.
I know it'll be fun. They said it is fun, but it's definitely not glamorous. Everyone's sound good. Just checking, making sure we're good because we'll get ready to go in just a minute. We're about there. Okay. We'll wait till 8, but okay. We all ready? We're at 8. Okay. Did someone just roll in? Okay. Yep.
So can you say your first and last name for me and spell it for me, please?
My name is Sierra Hellstrom, SIERRAHELLSTROM. I'm the Public Information Officer with the Northern Utah Type 3 Incident Management Team that's currently managing the Bonneville Fire, which is here just east of Salt Lake City in the University of Utah.
Can you give us an update on where that fire stands currently?
The fire is currently at 495 acres and 5% contained. We have 136 personnel on scene, and that varies day to day depending on which crews come, which crews time out. We are being supported by a Type 3 incident management team, which is a medium level complexity where we may have some evacuations, medium sized fire, in difference to what we're seeing down on the Iron Fire, where we have a complex incident management team that's a larger size with a larger complexity of fire, where they have more evacuations and a larger fire. Our team is an interagency team with representatives from the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Wildland Fire Service, the state of Utah, cooperators from local fire departments and agencies as well. So it's really an interagency effort that we're all here today, and also being supported by the Salt Lake Police Department and Fire Department and the University of Utah as our cooperators. The fire currently, we are seeing little activity this morning compared to what we woke up to yesterday with a lot of smoke and inversion. A very different story here this morning. The smoke has mostly lifted, the inversion is mostly gone, and the fire actually started to settle overnight, where we did not see the flame lengths that we saw the night before. We did have some clouds and some humidity roll in, and while no rain or precipitation fell on the fire, we saw a lot of what we call as virga, where it's that moisture starting to fall but never reaches the ground. But even though we don't see moisture on the ground, what that really does is it brings humidity into the air and starts to cool the fire area. Fire needs heat to grow. And so, where that heat is removed from the temperature and the air, it actually starts to cool the fire. So, we really saw a decrease in fire behavior last night. It was very active yesterday afternoon, especially up on the east flank, just over the ridge. And as the storm settled in last night, it really died down. So, we were having great success in the afternoon and early evening that the crews worked in there. And then that remained overnight until this morning. However, going into today's shift, we are moving into what will happen all week is a hot, dry period where we're going to be hitting 90-degree temperatures. It's going to be extremely hot. The humidity is lifting out of the area. We will see increasingly dry conditions, and we won't see that overnight recovery that we have seen the last 2 nights. So we want the public to be prepared that there may be, not just on this fire, but across the state, an increase in fire behavior as we have conditions that are not conducive to fire activity, but they're conducive to fire growth. We thankfully had great success yesterday with the air support. The crews were able to get on the ground almost completely around the fire. And while air support doesn't put fires out, it supports the crews on the ground to be able to bring in retardant and moisture to cool the fire area so firefighters can go more directly to the fire. We saw a lot of that on that east flank, but some of the things they run into there is we're up into very steep and rocky terrain that causes a level of difficulty to the firefighters hiking up in there. There's possibility for rolling debris, which can be an issue. And then, as many of us who recreate in these public lands here, rattlesnakes are a big issue up there. They're working up in some of the areas near Rattlesnake Gulch, which is aptly named. So just the hazards that some of the crews are dealing with up there. But moving forward to today, we feel really good about the progress we made yesterday. And they're hitting it hard this morning, hoping that they can get in there and make some progress before it starts to heat up this afternoon. And we're hoping to start to secure that perimeter a little bit more and see containment go up today. We're currently still under investigation with the cause. We have not heard any updates with that. Sometimes that's quick and very easy to determine, and sometimes it takes weeks, if not months, to determine. So we'll announce that when we have more, but no updates on the cause at this time. Absolutely. So in conjunction with our team, we made a recommendation yesterday to Salt Lake to put the Arlington Hills area in a ready status. This does not mean there are any evacuations in place, but as the fire did make a little bit of a north-northwest push yesterday, we wanted the public to be aware that there was an increased possibility of the fire moving that direction. So we won't use the term imminent threat, but as the fire progressed there, it still would have to jump Dry Gulch and move across that canyon, which we do not anticipate happening, and especially the current fire behavior that we have. But we wanted those homeowners to know that there was that potential and to start prepping what that might look like if the fire continued to progress in that direction. With the fire behavior and the wind shifts we saw yesterday, where the wind started to shift, blowing more towards the south and the east, it alleviated that threat quite a bit. Not enough that we're going to pull the ready status. Residents in that area should continue to monitor the social media pages and start making considerations of what an evacuation might look like if it happens. Having said that, we are feeling really good about the progress made, and I do not believe that we will have to move that further. But conditions change, and fires are, as much as we have all the science and data to back us up, are unpredictable. So we always ask that the public be aware and remain vigilant, paying attention to any fires in their area.
We look over there and we say, man, it's out, it's done. How important is it that people don't take what they see for granted?
One of the biggest misconceptions with fire is that if there are not flames and smoke, there's not a fire on the mountain. But anyone who's ever camped, had a campfire, you might not be able to see the coals, but you do one quick little stir of a fire that's been active, and there is a lot of heat in there. And right now, as we wake up this morning to cooler temperatures, a little bit of moisture in the air, people get a false sense of security that there's not a fire on the mountain anymore. But all it's going to take is, as soon as these clouds lift about 9 a.m., 10 a.m. this morning, we're going to see that direct heat right on there, and you'll start to see that smoke start to lift again and fire activity increase like it would with any campfire or any fire that you have around. So Just because there's not growth, just because there's not smoke and flames, does not mean there's a fire. The trails in the area remain closed for public safety just as much as firefighter safety. We did let the City Creek water treatment employees back in. We feel like the threat is alleviated enough from that area. We're letting them back in, but it is still closed to the public. So if the public sees traffic in the area, that doesn't mean that they're still allowed in. It's simply just the employees and the construction workers in there. But yeah, there still is an active fire on the mountain, and we want to remind the public to stay safe and to stay out of it. Which brings us to another one. I had spoken yesterday evening that we so far hadn't had drone incursions that day or any incursions into the trails, and about an hour later, we did have a drone incursion in the area. A drone was sighted by the firefighters on the ground, and we completely have to ground aircraft when that happens to avoid any mid-air collisions. So aircraft was grounded for about an hour yesterday, which not only endangers the pilots so we can avoid a mid-air collision, but firefighters on the ground need that air support to be able to come in, cool off a hot area or an area that may be making a run. So it really leaves our firefighters up on the mountain very vulnerable. So if you're flying, we can't, and we want to protect our firefighters. So please help us do that by keeping personal drones out of the area and out of the temporary flight restriction.
Do you have the resources you need? Were you requesting more resources? How are they allocated right now?
At this time, we actually have been so far given all the resources we need. We're very lucky. We're early in the fire season here, and there actually, other than a lot in Utah right now, not a lot of activity in other places. So we are getting almost everything, not even almost, we are getting everything we need. And some of the fires, like we made great progress yesterday on the Middle Fork fire up in Ogden Valley, where they were releasing some crews because they were up to 75% containment. So those crews get reallocated, they offer them up, and we're going to bring some of them here to just get around this a little bit quicker and a little bit faster. So we've been very fortunate with our proximity to a lot of the resources here along the Wasatch Front and in Utah, as well as the other fires starting to make progress and turn crews over. We've got a lot of support. Genuinely, we're getting everything we ask for when we're putting requests into the dispatch center. It goes at a higher level to allocate resources based on the need. And other than the iron fire, which is a higher complexity fire than we're having here, we are the second biggest fire in the area and almost in the entire Great Basin, other than a few minor ones. So we're getting the resources we need. We have the support that we need, and we're very fortunate here along the Wasatch Front to have access to the tanker bases. The Bureau of Land Management and the United States Wildland Fire Service has one in Tooele. The Forest Service has the base up at Hill Air Force Base, and we have one in Cedar City. And then our night infrared is based out of Ogden, and many of our tankers are based out of our Ogden Forest Service office. So, and then the state has a couple of helicopters. So it's really a good interagency effort. So we have all the support that we need, and we've got a lot of different resources from varying agencies that put resources in together so that we can support these fires all as one team.
What's your biggest fear today? Is it heat? Is it wind? Is it the terrain? What are you guys worried about?
The biggest concern is going to be heat today. Mid 90 degree temperatures is never easy to do anything in, let alone be hiking up an incredibly steep mountain that has dust and debris and roll off. And you know, anyone who's hiked these hills, some of the lower foothills are a little less steep, but when we're getting up into this area up on the east side of the mountain behind us here, it really gets steep, and hydration issues, heat exhaustion, as much as humidity helps, when we have this dryness that we have here, it makes it very difficult for crews to stay hydrated, that hike their water up in. So we will keep a really close eye on the crews, making sure they're taking the rest and the respite that they need to stay safe, because the next few days are all going to be a hot, dry period, and we've got to not wear them out. We're very early in the season, and we'll do everything we can, making sure taking care of crews and their health first and foremost.
Where do we stand today with containment acres
495
burnt?
acres and 5% containment. We're really making good progress. We talked yesterday about how containment isn't necessarily that the fire hasn't moved, but that we're confident that the fire will not move. So the test really was, a lot of it was yesterday's down canyon winds to make sure it held through the down canyon winds yesterday. And we're going to test it through today's heat and the gusty winds that we'll pick up this afternoon. If we see the perimeter hold through that. Some of the perimeter we may start calling more containment, so we likely will see that increase this afternoon once we've got crews on the ground and tested it throughout 2 days difficult weather that we're going to see. Absolutely, yeah. We have helicopters. Someone asked yesterday, so we have 3 helicopters assigned to the fire, and we'll have one more this afternoon coming in. So we'll have 4 assigned to us doing rotating drops based on the firefighters on the ground call those in of where they need to cool fire areas. We are dipping out of some of the local reservoirs here, working really closely with our resource advisors to make sure that we're not harming any primary water sources. We're very careful about where we're pulling water, and water is a difficult thing. We live in the second driest state in the nation, and water continues to be one of the issues. So we work really closely with those who have authority over the water, getting grants, getting agreements in place to make sure we're using the right water and have permission to use it. Moving into the weekend, we're going to continue to see this hot, dry trend, and if we continue to make progress the way we have, we might start seeing containment jump up and make progress there. We never make commitments, we never guarantee anything, but we also see patterns of behavior, and we're looking at the science and the data, and we talk to the boots on the ground, and they're feeling really good about the progress they made. Conditions may change, weather may enhance that and make things worse, but as of right now, we're looking really good going into the weekend and hoping to start buttoning up this fire. They asked that yesterday, and honestly, I do not know. I wasn't here during initial attack. I haven't even spoken with the investigator or seen them here in camp. They've been on scene, but not where I have been. I don't have any updates of that, of even what hint of it might be. So I don't want to ever impinge on an ongoing investigation, but I do not have more information with that. Yeah, so here in Utah, the Iron Fire is probably the highest priority. They have a lot of people evacuated out of Eureka. They've got a complex incident management team, and last I checked, they were over 20,000 acres. I won't give lots of details about it because it's not my fire, and I don't know all of them, but that's the number one priority right now, rightfully so, where there's people imminently impacted versus possibility of a impact here. And that doesn't mean in any way we're not taking this fire seriously and not throwing everything at it that we can, but that's where we share the resources. The Middle Fork fire up in Ogden, they actually reached 75% containment yesterday, which is wonderful. They're making great progress and starting to slow that. And then the Hastings fire out near Tooele in the wilderness area up there, very similar. They were about 6,000 acres yesterday, and the crews are making good progress up there. Limited, obviously, by wilderness area, always adds its own challenges, but there aren't, last I checked, any structures or anything threatened out there of the values at risk, but still fighting that fire as we're dealing with the conditions that we are. And then there is, I'm going to say this, the name escapes me, of the fire down south at the southwest corner of Utah that they're working on, that I absolutely know the name of and can't think of it. You get pigeonholed when you get assigned to your fire. So there are a handful, and then we've seen a handful of other starts, small little ones that we're initial attacking and responding to as we move forward. And I think that will continue as we're in summer, people are out recreating, we're moving into the holidays coming up. So I think we'll continue to see fires pop, and those will change daily of the priorities and the sizes of the fire that we're seeing. We'll do another briefing today at 3 p.m. We'll do another one of these live today, and then we're going to reevaluate tomorrow just based on the needs and what's going on. Obviously, we want to make sure it's all timeliness and newsworthy and make sure it's worth your guys' time, but we still feel like there's active enough fire here and enough information to be able to share that we'll continue to do these 2-a-day updates until that changes. The winds so far aren't going to be red flag warning today. We were looking at gusts up to about 15 miles an hour, which isn't quite hitting that, but that could change. Sometimes the predictions science is wonderful, and sometimes Mother Nature does her own thing and goes above and beyond what the predictions say. Okay, thanks guys.
Huh.